Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and without saying a single word, everyone seems to feel their presence? They don't need to announce themselves or compete for attention. They simply exist, and still they attract respect, opportunities, and admiration. Now think, is their secret only in what they do? Or could there be something much bigger, much more subtle, something no one sees, but everyone feels? Today, I'm going to share with you one of the greatest secrets of the New Thought movement, something few talk about, but that completely changes how you relate to life. It's an internal power that, when mastered, makes circumstances start aligning in your favor. I am talking about that invisible force born inside you, one that doesn't depend on titles, appearance, or social media. A quiet energy, yet incredibly powerful. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone with less experience, fewer resources, or even less merit being recognized before you? And you, who give your best every day, seem to stay in the shadows. Maybe it's not about how hard you work. Maybe it's about how much you carry inside. This is the kind of strength Neville Goddard called the creative feeling, what Florence Scovel Shin saw as the divine mind law, and what Viktor Frankl, an Auschwitz survivor, described as inner freedom even in suffering. It's this very thing that separates those who naturally attract what they want from those who spend their lives chasing and never arriving. This invisible force doesn't shout, doesn't sell itself, doesn't seek approval. It simply exists. And when you learn to cultivate it, it begins to radiate on its own. And here is the most amazing part. You don't need to change who you are to access it. You were born with this ability. I know it might sound abstract right now, but let's make it real. I've lived this myself. A few years ago, I was in a phase where everything seemed difficult. I worked hard, gave my all, but nothing flowed. Doors wouldn't open, people didn't listen, and I felt invisible, until I realized something fundamental. The problem wasn't the world out there. It was the energy with which I showed up to it. I started studying the great masters of New Thought. Neville Goddard, with his focus on the creative feeling. Florence Scovel Shin, who showed how a mind connected to true well-being attracts abundance. And of course, Viktor Frankl, who taught us that the last human freedom is choosing your attitude in any circumstance. It was there, within that internal shift, that everything began to change. I didn't need to give big speeches or promote myself compulsively. I just started carrying a different certainty. And slowly, people began looking at me differently. That's what I call invisible strength. Not arrogance, not pretense. It's the energy of someone who knows who they are, even in silence. In this video, we'll explore together how to build this kind of presence. How to develop an internal energy so strong, so clear, that people start seeing you in a new light, even if you do absolutely nothing to make it happen. If you want to build a presence that doesn't go unnoticed, if you want to attract respect effortlessly and create a life where things flow naturally, then this video is for you. Ready to discover how to activate that force inside you? The first key to building this invisible force is understanding a deep and often overlooked principle. You don't attract what you want by what you do, but by how you feel inside. This might sound abstract at first, but think about it with me. Have you ever noticed how some people always seem to be in the right place at the right time? They don't chase things. Things just come to them. It's not luck. It's presence. It's aligned energy. It's that internal strength so clear and solid that it becomes irresistible to the outside world. This is the core concept behind the Law of Interiorization, deeply explored by Neville Goddard, one of the greatest thinkers of the New Thought movement. He said that all reality begins within us. Before something manifests in the physical world, it must first exist as a true feeling inside you. In other words, before you have, you must be. Before you achieve, you must feel worthy. And this isn't just a nice idea. It's a silent rule that governs your life. Let me show you with a personal experience. A few years ago, I was trying to land a professional opportunity that seemed impossible. I sent my resume, asked for recommendations, oversold myself, and nothing happened. It felt like banging my head against a wall, until I decided to change my approach. I started practicing a simple daily exercise, visualizing myself already having achieved what I wanted. I imagined how I'd feel, how I'd walk, how I'd speak, and most importantly, I held on to that inner feeling, regardless of external circumstances. It didn't happen overnight, but over the weeks, something began to shift. Not in the world around me, but within me. My gaze became steadier, my voice more confident, my energy lighter. I no longer needed to prove anything to anyone because I already knew who I was. And guess what happened? People started treating me differently. I was invited into spaces that were once out of reach. An opportunity came along, and this time it was exactly what I had wanted. That wasn't luck. That was the law of interiorization in action. When you live from the desired outcome, it starts to show up, not through magic, but through internal change. Florence Scovel Shin, one of the pioneers of the New Thought movement, wrote that man is what he thinks, but even more, he is what he feels. The creative feeling is the engine behind everything that manifests. So it's not enough to think positively. You must truly feel it. Your internal energy needs to align with what you desire, not with what you fear. When you live from that inner feeling, you build an aura of confidence, calm, and authority. And that alone changes how the world sees you. That's what we call real presence, the kind that doesn't shout but echoes. That doesn't announce itself but still gets noticed. How about starting now? Take 2 minutes each day to close your eyes and imagine yourself living exactly what you desire. Don't just see it as a goal. See it as a lived reality, as if you already are the person you want to be. Feel it from within, as if it's your natural state. You'll notice how your posture changes, how your speech changes, and gradually the world around you will begin to shift too. If you'd like to share what feeling you're cultivating today, leave it in the comments. Your story might inspire others to find their own invisible strength. Have you ever noticed how the most respected people rarely feel the need to explain themselves? They aren't obsessed with being understood by everyone, and paradoxically, that's exactly what makes them even more admired. This happens because they understand a simple but deeply difficult truth. You don't need other people's approval to have value. In fact, the more you seek to be understood, the more power you hand over to others' opinions. And the more you allow yourself to be misunderstood, the stronger your internal force becomes. This is the second key to building your invisible strength: mastering the art of being misunderstood. A few years ago, I was working on an important project and made a decision many considered wrong. Some friends questioned me, colleagues criticized me, and even close people thought I was making a mistake. My first reaction was to justify, explain, and try to convince everyone I was right. But the more I spoke, the less I was heard. So I changed strategies. I stopped explaining myself. Just like that. I wasn't rude or dismissive. I simply realized my peace mattered more than collective approval. And guess what happened? Something unexpected. The very people who criticized me began listening more closely. My silence spoke louder than any explanation ever could. Because when you stop defending yourself compulsively, you show that something solid exists inside you. You show that your decisions come from an inner place, not from external reactions. This principle is present in the teachings of Charles Kingsley, another major figure in the New Thought movement. He said, "When you live from your inner center, the understanding of others ceases to be a necessity." And this isn't arrogance, it's clarity. It's understanding that each person has their own filter, their own beliefs, their own fears. Not everyone will understand your path, and that's okay. What matters is that you understand it. What matters is that you stay aligned with yourself. Let me challenge you now with something simple yet powerful. Next time someone judges or questions you, pause, breathe, and instead of reacting, ask yourself, do I really need to be understood here? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes it's no. And when it's no, let it go. Don't waste energy trying to fit your essence into someone else's limited expectations. This is one of the best-kept secrets of people who radiate effortless respect. They don't need to be understood. They know who they are, and that's enough. If you want to share a moment when you chose to stop explaining yourself, leave it in the comments. Many of us live this in silence. Your story might give courage to someone still searching for their own voice. Have you ever noticed how truly powerful people speak less and say more? They don't feel the need to fill every space with words. They know silence carries weight no sentence can match. This is the third pillar of your invisible strength, learning to use silence as a source of authority. Silence isn't absence. It's maximum presence. It's choosing not to react impulsively, not to justify out of insecurity, and simply occupying your space without asking permission. And this goes against everything society teaches us. We're constantly pressured to stay connected, respond fast, speak louder, stand out more. But the harder you try to show up, the less impact you create. True power lies in those who know when to stay quiet. Even more so, in those who use silence as a form of deeper communication. We call this silent authority, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything, yet makes everyone pay attention. I lived this intensely during an important meeting a few years ago. I was surrounded by influential people, each trying to prove their worth with arguments, data, and long speeches. I was there, listening, observing, and at times I even felt invisible. When it was finally my turn to speak, I took a deep breath and said only what was essential. No justifications, no unnecessary words, just what needed to be said, clearly and firmly. The result was surprising. People didn't just listen. They looked at me differently. One person who hadn't even greeted me before came up afterward and said, "There's weight in the way you speak." At that moment, I understood something fundamental. Silence before a word increases its value. Silence after a word gives it time to resonate. I also noticed another thing. Many people talk so much out of fear. Fear of emptiness, fear of not being seen, fear of appearing fragile. But the true sign of strength is knowing how to stay silent and let others feel your presence, even without saying a word. This is something Ernest Holmes, founder of the science of mind, understood deeply. He said the true master of thought is the one who masters the space between words. That is, silence isn't the absence of communication. It's communication elevated to its purest form. It's where energy speaks louder than language. When you learn to use silence strategically, you build a presence that cannot be ignored, because you begin to radiate control, clarity, and inner certainty. And this is a rare skill. Our culture often mistakes talking a lot for being in control. The opposite is true. The person who truly controls themselves knows when not to speak. Here's a simple challenge for you. In your next important conversation, pause before responding. Count mentally to 3. Let silence exist. Don't fear it. Use it as a tool. You'll notice that instead of losing control of the situation, you gain authority. And one more thing. Once you finish speaking, resist the urge to fill the void with more explanations. Let your words breathe. Let the other person feel the weight of what was said. This small shift in how you communicate creates a massive transformation in how others perceive you. Because respect doesn't come from how much you say. It comes from the quality of what you do say and what you choose to keep unsaid. It's amazing how the world starts to change when you shift your relationship with silence. People start listening more, judging less, and respecting more. Because true power doesn't shout. It makes itself known through calm tone, steady gaze, and carefully chosen words. If you'd like to share how it felt using silence as an ally, leave it in the comments. Many still fear the void. Your story might help someone find the courage to embrace it. Have you ever noticed how the most respected people don't get worn down by everything happening around them? They don't get stuck on other people's opinions, unfounded criticism, or daily chaos. They aren't cold or negatively indifferent. They're consciously indifferent. And that is one of the most powerful ways to show invisible strength. The fourth key to building your authentic presence is understanding that not everything deserves your attention, and even less deserves your reaction. It might seem contradictory to what we've learned, right? We were raised believing we must respond quickly, defend our points, explain every action, correct every bad impression. But the more you try to control others' perception, the more energy you lose. And worse, you hand over your emotional power to people who may not even know what they re-saying. I experienced this deeply a few years ago when some of my content accidentally went viral in a larger network than I expected. Positive comments came fast, but so did many unfair attacks. My first reaction was to justify, reply one by one, try to clarify, until I realized nobody was interested in the truth. Many were just reacting, so I stopped. Just like that. Not arrogantly, not rudely. I simply chose not to feed the noise. I let time do its work. And guess what happened? Over time, the attacks faded. People started seeing things more clearly. And the most surprising part? Many of those who once criticized me came back to say they had misunderstood. Why? Because conscious indifference has a unique weight. It shows you're centered, that your decisions come from the right place, and that your peace doesn't depend on others' approval. This principle is deeply tied to the teachings of Thomas Troward, one of the great thinkers of the New Thought movement. He said, "The divine man is not shaken by the winds of circumstance." In other words, you don't need to react to everything to prove you exist. On the contrary, sometimes the greatest proof of strength is not reacting. When you consciously choose to be indifferent, you project a calm that's impossible to ignore. You show you're connected to something greater than passing emotions. Let me challenge you now. Next time someone says something that bothers you, or when you're caught in an unnecessary conflict, take a deep breath and ask yourself, does this really matter? If the answer is no, let it go. Not out of coldness, but wisdom. Not out of pride, but inner peace. This is one of the most powerful tools you can use to build your invisible strength. Because when you stop wasting energy on the superficial, you start gaining clarity on what's essential. And that's where true authority emerges. Not by shouting, not by reacting, but by existing with firmness and purpose. If you want to share a moment when you chose conscious indifference, leave it in the comments. Your story might help someone else find the strength to do the same. If you've made it this far, I want you to know, it wasn't by accident. You're rewatching this video because now is the time to build an invisible strength within you. A strength that goes far beyond words, titles, or appearances. These 4 keys we shared today, the law of interiorization, the art of being misunderstood, silence as a source of authority, and the power of conscious indifference, are deep tools for anyone who wants to be seen, respected, and recognized without needing to prove anything to anyone. It's not about changing who you are. It's about aligning your energy with who you already truly are. Because when you do that, the world begins to shift around you. Think about it. The most influential people you know might not be the smartest, the most successful, or the most charismatic. Often they're the ones who radiate a kind of calm, clarity, and presence that can't be faked. That presence doesn't come from outside. It's born from within. And it only manifests when you understand that you don't need others' approval to have value. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to justify yourself to be valued. And you certainly don't need to chase recognition. It comes naturally when your presence speaks louder than your words. This is the essence of the New Thought movement. Understanding that reality begins inside, that the respect of others isn't earned through effort, but revealed through inner clarity. I know it can feel hard to apply this in daily life, but remember, everything starts with small choices. A moment of silence, a choice not to react, a renewed belief that you are worthy, even before proving anything. Every step on this journey counts. Every conscious choice brings you closer to the person you came to be. And every time you choose peace over reaction, you strengthen that invisible force that changes everything. As Thomas Troward once said, when the inner man is aligned, the outer man finds his place. This isn't just philosophy. It's a silent law that governs your life. If this video touched you in any way, and I know it did, then let me ask you something simple. Hit like on this video, share it with someone who might need to hear this right now, and subscribe to the channel Vibrating Prosperity. Hit the bell to receive more powerful content like this. Because this journey doesn't end here. To help you along the way, we've left a special gift in the pinned comment or in the description. Remember, there's much more to come, and we want to keep walking with you on this transformative path. I've applied each of these principles in my own life, and I can promise you they work. The invisible strength isn't an illusion, it's real, and it's available to you the moment you decide to cultivate it. So take a deep breath, look inward, and remember, you don't need to change the world out there, just change your relationship with the world inside you. The respect, authority, and presence you desire will begin to rise, naturally, quietly, irresistibly. Because when you become the source of your own strength, the entire world starts to recognize it, even without you saying a single word. The universe bends to your purpose. Peace and light to all.